the current situation of the war, of the conflict in the Middle East, it's a war that is escalating. And one of the main problems right now is what is happening in the Strait of Hormuz. One of the main reasons that you see in the United States, they're talking about the invasion of Iran, going to some islands close to the Strait of Hormuz. You've been there, you know the region.
Yes.
And here is a clip of you passing over the Strait of Hormuz. Do you want me to play it right now? You want to say something
yes,
and then
yes,
play
please. Please, Nima, allow me 30 seconds to explain the context to
Go
you
ahead.
and to our audience. This was during May last year when we were shooting our documentary on the North-South Transportation Corridor, Russia, Iran, India. And this clip you're going to see, it was released only, 2 hours ago by Press TV. This is when I was flying over the Strait of Hormuz. You're going to see Hormuz Island down there before we arrived at the port of Chabahar. Extremely important. It's so important that a few days ago it was bombed by the Americans. So this clip gives you an idea about the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of global oil that transits through it, a little bit of the geography, and arriving in Chabahar, which is the big port in Sistan, Balochistan, quite close to the Iran-Pakistani border. Very important. And there's obviously a lot of spin concerning the possibility of an American landing in Sistan, Balochistan, not far from Chabahar, which, if would be the case, it's an absolute suicidal mission. I don't think it's going to happen, but there's a lot of rumors about it in Pakistan, in the Gulf, in Iran as well. But you can consider this absurd. We're going to talk about this later on. Thank you, Nima.
Yeah, here is the clip, Pepe.
Okay, thank you.
The southern sky was bright, not with light, but with a hidden possibility. Down below, where the sea narrows and the paths of oil and politics merge, geography is no longer a map, it's an equation. Every day, 1/5 of the world's oil flows silently go through this strait. But nothing here is truly silent. The winds from Oman carry the hum of tankers, and from above, I watched as power moved across the water. We were headed to Chabahar, a remote point, now standing at the center of tomorrow's game.
Yeah, it's a very short clip, of course, and in the documentary, please, very simple, all of you, go to the Press TV website, presstv.ir. You click on documentaries, is over there, right in front of you. 1 hour documentary in detail explaining everything about the corridor, and obviously you're going to see a lot about Bandar Abbas, Persian Gulf, Strait of Hormuz, cargo movement, the port of Chabahar, and of course how trade in the Persian Gulf and beyond works.
Pepe, let me bring in a deeper question, which was mentioned in your recent piece on Sputnik. And this article is that new world busy, being born, and while old one is busy dying. And what is your point? What are you trying to mention in this article?
Well, to start with, a technical problem. This is a direct reference to lyrics in one of Bob Dylan's most important songs, It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, where there is this absolutely outstanding verse. He's not busy being born, he's busy dying. And I adapted to the new order, the old order, to quote Gramsci, not yet dead, but in fact is dying fast. And the new one, which is not being born yet, but is actually busy being born as we speak. And at the center of this new order being born, the Strait of Hormuz. It's not by accident that a guy who manages $14 trillion, this is the man that manages the biggest amount of funds in the history of humanity. And this is not hyperbolic. Larry Fink from BlackRock. He gave an interview to the BBC where the breakdown essentially is, there are only two outcomes. And he was referring, without getting into details, to the Strait of Hormuz, to how the Strait of Hormuz is going to operate from now on. So his two outcomes. At the end, which is not going to be the end, it's going to be the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. We're going to have oil at $40 a barrel, or we're going to have oil at $150 a barrel. And if that happens, option number two, he said it, bluntly, straight to the point. It's going to be a global recession. So where we are now, we are not going towards option number one. We are fast advancing towards option number two, because oil is now over 100. It's not coming down. It's between 100 and 110. Depending on what happens this weekend, it could get easily to 120, assuming there is this enormous blah, blah, blah of a ground invasion with 4,000 Marines, which is a joke in itself. So the global recession has already started, by the way. So Fink, of course, because he's always hedging. Don't forget, this guy is managing fortunes that people cannot even quantify. So he has to hedge. But he knows deep inside, and he looked positively glum in this interview, that we are going towards option number two, oil at 150 a barrel. And of course, this is on top of what did not happen during this week. We are talking on Thursday, right, Nima? Yeah. You remember that on Monday, the famous ultimatum was cut off by Neo Caligula himself, because he looked at the numbers and he freaked out. And the numbers were the price of oil and, of course, the numbers in the bond market. The bond market was going over 5%, back to 4.5, and then back to 5. He was freaking out because one of the few things that he may know, or at least he has some idiots around him like Lutnick to tell him, look, at 5%, the 10-year yield on U.S. Treasury bonds, we cannot sustain anything. We cannot pay anything. We collapse. So we are getting there still, because the yield continued to grow after people found out that his blah, blah, blah was fake. And this 5-year postponing was essentially to buy time to maybe engineer this whatever ground invasion. That they have a few scenarios for a possible ground invasion. All of them cataclysmic for the invading forces. So this is where we are at the moment. And once again, everything in the whole planet now turns around what happens in the Strait of Hormuz.
I think one of the immediate reactions on the part of Iranians would be not only attack on the island that they're trying to capture, they're trying to invade, but also on UAE. We've seen how Ghalibaf, the Speaker of Parliament in Iran, he said, we have information that one of these Arab states is cooperating with the United States to invade Iran. And that could be totally devastating for them. Your take on that?
It's my next column. I already started writing it, Nima. This one is probably published tomorrow. And I started writing about Pakistan as the mediator, as the chosen mediator, if of course, a meeting would take place in Islamabad. This was the scenario in the beginning of the week. Okay, we're going to have maybe a meeting in Islamabad by the end of the week. And it will be between J.D. Vance, and Galibaf. So this lasted probably not more than a day and a half maximum. Because the previous idea was they got rid of Moot and Jeff, Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Dumb and Dumber, Witkoff and Kushner. These idiots could not even read the proposal translated by very able Omani diplomats, written in Farsi. The Omani diplomats translated into English, handed it to Witkoff and Kushner, and these idiots could not even understand, Nima, what Iran was proposing, which was very, very generous. Anyway, so the Iranians might talk to J.D. Vance. And then, of course, Arakshi, Galibaf himself, everybody said, we're not going to talk to anybody because they know our list. We passed our list through the usual intermediaries, mostly Oman, Pakistan as well. And of course, it's absolutely incompatible with the absolutely stupid 15-point plan by the Americans. So obviously, there is no possibility of any negotiation. The problem is now that after the whole thing collapsed, and it's more or less certain that probably during this weekend, there's going to be an attempt at least to establish a bridge. It won't be a ground invasion. You cannot do a ground invasion with 4,000 Marines. That's a joke, even with all the air support that they're going to get. Maybe they will try to establish a bridge. And there are three major candidates. The number one candidate, the way I see it, is the little Larak Island. It's going to be very, very difficult. Why Larak Island? Because this is where the IRGC Navy, with binoculars, they can control visually and physically the tankers who paid the toll to cross the Strait of Hormuz, and they navigate very close to this little island. It's to the right of Kashm. Kashm is much, much bigger. So just to give an idea to all of you.
Here is Larak.
Here's that. Excellent. This is so Kashm is to the, Kashm is, Kashm is much, much bigger.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kashm, to give an idea to all of you, it's bigger than Okinawa.
This one is Hormuz, which you mentioned just at the beginning of this.
Exactly, because when the footage that you saw in the documentary, my plane took off from Bandar Abbas, so we were flying over here to the right of Hormuz Island. In fact, I flew over here between Hormuz, Larak, and Kashm, and then he turns around and we arrived in Chabahar over here.
Yeah, this is Kashm. Yeah.
This is Kashm, exactly. So Kashm is absolutely impossible. Just to give an idea to all of you, in the Second World War, Okinawa, it took the Americans, if I'm not mistaken, lost at least 12,000 soldiers to take Okinawa. It took them 3 months to take Okinawa, and they sent a lot of people. So multiply that with the size of Kashm, and you see that it's out of the question. So at best, if they were, I would say, the luckiest ever for all pantheons of gods available, they could establish a bridgehead in Larak. But Larak is extremely well protected, and the U.S. And the IRGC Navy is there. It's heavily fortified, heavily protected, with batteries of missiles everywhere, etc. So this would be possibility number one. Kashm, very hard. And the third one, which is a diversionist tactic, Karg. But Karg is very, very far away. It's way to the west of the Strait of Hormuz.
Just to understand it, let me go to the...
You can show Karg, exactly. Yeah, it's still further west. Karg is here, exactly. Karg is here. It's extremely far away from Hormuz.
It's here, and you have to go. It's just impossible. They don't want to.
No, they don't. And if, for instance, if they land in Kuwait and they try to cross to Karg, wow, they're gonna be sitting ducks for batteries of missiles as well. Completely absurd. So it's not gonna work.
It's almost impossible, going in that direction.
You're right.
It seems
tell me, Ima, do you agree that Iraq is probably the number one target at the moment?
It could be, but yeah. But I literally think about this island here, the old Kesh, here.
Okay.
They may be closer to the, to the Kesh Island, and then they are closer to. I think this island could be one of them, but after
they
all,
still have to go to Kesh, and Kashmir is very well protected. It still doesn't
exactly.
It still doesn't make sense. Yeah.
And they're not going to achieve anything if they go there, Pepe, because it's not just about going there, sustaining the situation, fighting back. Yeah.
And coming back to the other key point that you just mentioned, the role of the UAE. This is extremely serious because now we know not only the IRGC, but the best strategic analysts in Tehran, they are reviewing everything that the UAE did, even before the war, what they have done these past 3 weeks, and the conclusion is practically inevitable. They are already part of the wars side by side with the US and Israel. So there will be a counterpunch. And for the moment, Iran has been very discreet. They only hit a few selective targets in the UAE. In Dubai, Jebel Ali, the port, hotels where American troops were staying. But now it's a completely different story. So if the UAE, if there is this attempt of, let's say, the beachhead, not a ground invasion, and it's certified that UAE is part of it, MBZ better be ready because Iran could turn his bling bling money laundering machine into a parking lot easily if they want to. So the Dubai model, as we know it, is already dead. But then we're going to get to the Abu Dhabi energy export model and the artificial intelligence that the Emirates facilitates to Israel and to the US. So then it's going to be all-out war, Iran and UAE. This is extremely serious. And everybody already knows that the UAE is part of it. Yeah. So it's just now from Iran now the next step is to formalize that you are hostile, you are an enemy nation, you are attacking the Islamic Republic, and you're going to have to pay the price. So all that enters in, all that is part of, once again, everything revolving around the Strait of Hormuz. Qatar and Oman, they have been very, very clever. They are the only ones who, among the GCC, that disassociated themselves on the war and being on the side of US-Israel. So for all practical purposes, Oman and Qatar are neutral from now on, and Iran recognizes that. But the other GCCs, especially Saudi Arabia and UAE, it's a completely different story. And we know that there was a document released by 5 of the GCCs without Oman, plus Jordan with the little king, condemning Iran, which is a way of saying, look, we are siding with the Epstein Syndicate. So this is how it was read in Tehran, obviously. So, I would say that both sides now are pretty clear who's on which side and who decided to get out of it, Oman and Qatar.
Pepe, what we've learned from the Iranian foreign minister, he said that the United States is sending messages through different mediators. Basically, he's talking about Oman, Pakistan, and even Turkey. But these, it doesn't mean that Iran is negotiating with the United States. They're sending the proposals, some sort of ideas, sending how to. But after all, Iran hasn't changed its position, to end the war. The compensation for destruction. This is one of the crucial points in the Iranian argument, in the argument they have right now. If the United States accept the compensation for destruction, it means that the United States is to blame for this war. They accept by themselves. And how do you see that happening with Donald Trump? Because the guy is just somehow bragging about, attacking even the mainstream media in the United States who are not in line with him. And he says that they're making lies and all of this and that. But after all, do you see this guy going that far? I don't see that happening. That's why the war would go on and on.
Absolutely. There's what I described as the infernal escalation machine will keep going. And this was already obvious at the beginning of the week, regardless of the ultimatum to start destroying the Iranian electric grid. If that went on or was canceled like it was practically at the last minute, regardless, the machine of escalation is there because the positions on both sides are absolutely incompatible in every issue, except maybe, but assuming that the United States would negotiate in good faith, which they never do. And obviously, no one in a position of power in Iran can possibly negotiate with the US after what happened in the last two instances. So there's no possible negotiation. It's the confirmation live once again and paid with blood that our friend, the Grand Master Sergei Lavrov, has been saying for over 2 years. The United States is non-agreement capable. And much more than that, non-negotiation capable and non-diplomacy capable. And this, we can call it regime in the US at the moment, has proven that over and over again. It's the bombing regime by definition. That's it. Their diplomacy is bombing. So that poses an enormous problem for Iran to even entertain any negotiations. It's true, there are a lot of back channels. At the moment, let's say that Qatar now is in the background. And Oman is always there. Oman was there and continues to be there. But there are three extra back channels now: Egypt, Turkey, and Pakistan. And the case of Pakistan is extremely complicated. This is, I started writing my column, and then I turned the column around because of the UAE. But after a conversation today, deep in the middle of the night, I'll be arranging all these elements. Because Pakistan, they see this as a golden, platinum opportunity for them to pose as mediators, because they have good relations with both sides. They have good relations with Iran, not spectacular, but good relations, neighbors. And the guy who was actually in charge in Pakistan, the army chief, the horrible Munir, he has Trump on speed dial, Nima. He can pick up the phone, call the White House, and Trump will talk to him right away. Don't forget, this general is one of the leaders of the Putsch regime change operation who got rid of Imran Khan and put Imran in jail. So this is an extremely ghastly regime. Hedging, of course. But Of course, they can capitalize on the fact that they can talk to everybody. That the other people in the GCC, they have very good relations with Pakistan. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have, for all practical purposes, a military pact. There are zillions of Pakistanis working in the Gulf and sending remittances to their families all across Pakistan. So this is an important element. This means you have a lot of Pakistanis who are living everywhere in the Gulf. So, of course, they have a little bit of leverage to pose as mediators. But can you trust them? Of course not. If I was,
if it was Imran Khan, I think Imran Khan would be something different from the current.
No, Imran Khan is different. Imran Khan, he evolved over the years, and he became not only a good in diplomacy, but a very good political leader as well. That's a completely different story. These people are extremely dangerous. And they don't forget that they depend on the industrial military complex. The relationship between the Pakistani military and the Pentagon was always very, very, very close. So basically, they are an extension of the Pentagon and industrial military complex. So can you trust them to be impartial, neutral mediators? Obviously not. But they positioned themselves to the point of they were getting privileged information from Iran and passing that to guess who? Tweedledum and Tweedledee, Witkoff and Kushner, who then would relay that to Trump. So General Munir, it's wow, it's complicated. But at the moment, apparently, this whole thing disappeared in a matter of maybe 48 hours, because now the only talk is about the so-called ground invasion. So now there's no diplomacy anymore. We're back to where it was, the infernal escalation machine. And if that happens and the UAE is involved, this means that the war will go to another dimension, even more complicated. And it will certainly implicate I would say, the formal entrance in the war by the Houthis in Yemen. Because they will enter the war, they will close the Bab el-Mandeb, and they will inflict serious trouble to Saudi exports via the Red Sea. There's no question about that. We are on the brink of all these things happening at the same time. So we can get to a scenario next week, Nima, less than a week from now, where things are even darker than they already are.